We'll go right to the AI, man. That was
Great, let's do
we'll
that.
have fun with that
Let's
one.
talk a little bit about AI.
Right. Yeah. So we're seeing more and more. I would say owners or hosts starting to incorporate AI into their photos.
Yeah.
In general, there are certain guidelines in Airbnb's TOS, for example, that they prohibit certain usage of it. And I think that in general, you peel back all the layers, what you're really seeing is vendors and or hosts trying to take shortcuts.
Yeah.
Right. And that doesn't work in the long term. I'm not a fan when we do photos as well. We do our own staging. It's real. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're going to edit some colors. We're going to, if, maybe clear sky corrections here and there, whatever the small things are. But as for adding things that don't exist, I don't mean like adding a barrel sauna when it's not there. I mean, is like, hey, we're going to I have this great fire pit and I'm going to put these 7 make believe people around this fire
Right.
pit. I'm going to promote that. Right.
Yeah.
In the clear lines of TOS, based on Airbnb, that's an event that never happened. Right.
Yeah.
And you can't say that experience is something that's there. We can do those and we say, hey, you use them on your website. You can use them on social media or your advertising, but don't use it on the OTAs. And the OTAs may not have a certain thing now to where they're going to take, but we're seeing to where as more and more people start doing that, we're getting to a certain, precipice to where Airbnb or VRBO is going to start restricting them or compressing the listing exposure because you're showing things that aren't real. Right.
Yeah.
And the consumer doesn't want to see that. If you ask your guest, hey, would you rather see this photo with a real breakfast set up on the bed? Or would you rather see an AI version of it? And which one do
Right.
you feel more comfortable with? Right. And the consumer is going to tell you the real one. Right. And we saw
Right.
that with all the ads on the Super Bowl this last year that went that AI direction, and the the public response was atrocious. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And everyone pulled back spending on that. So I think in general, if you're going to do the work, do it right. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And yeah.
I couldn't agree more. This has been a topic that we've been discussing within our Vodyssey group in our coaching calls, and my opinion on this has been fairly strong right now because what I think we're seeing is everybody used to Photoshop in the sunsets, right? And that became kind of like the normal thing. It's like, well, fix your sky. We're going to put these really pretty skies, right? And so if you could see a sunset from your house, great, fine. Like I get that you sometimes have sunsets, but people even started sunsetting houses looking east, right? And so
Right.
it's like, show me a sunrise, not the sunset, right?
Yeah.
There's no possibility of a sunset looking east. And so that didn't really become a massive problem. What's really happening though now is we start leaning into lifestyle photography. You guys, 5STR guest book, you guys are, you're one of our preferred vendors within our Vodyssey family. You've done a lot of these photo shoots. They're multiple day photo shoots. They're expensive photo shoots. You're setting a lot of scenes. What we're trying to do is really articulate what it would be like to be at that property, right? And so we spend a lot of time there and we spend a lot of money there. Well, because those are so expensive, and as AI has gotten better and better and better and more realistic and really good at making and creating these amazing scenes, and now all of a sudden we're putting people in them and they're looking amazing, right? These properties are becoming like the marketing assets that we're investing a lot of money into. Now we can do it faster and we can do it cheaper, and somebody can do an AI photo shoot. Just give me a real estate photo shoot and you give it to somebody that's really good with AI. They can make that thing look, like it's the party's happening all the time. There's people going on, there's scenes that are set, and they can do it for a fraction of what you can do sending a crew out for 3 or 4 days, right? And actually
Right.
waiting for the sunset and actually setting the scenes at different times of days and all that stuff. And what's happening is there's 2 things that I think are a major, major problem. The first is the Airbnb Vrbo, the more issues they start to have. And, this last week, just in the last week alone, I've talked to 3 different people, completely unrelated to Vodyssey, just people who listen to the podcast, who know us in our personal groups, that they know what we do. Said, I went to Airbnb, I stayed at an Airbnb, and it was not even the same property, right? It was a problem. And they called Airbnb and they said, hey, these are AI photos. and I didn't catch it, but this is the right property. Like, and Airbnb is like, it's the same property, but it's definitely set up different. Definitely looks a lot better, and they're all AI generated. The more and more of those customer service issues that Airbnb and Vrbo start to have, the more they are going to crack down on this. And so your first, order of business is to think, if I am using a lot of AI in my photography, one, am I setting am I really portraying what I actually have to offer? And most of the time when you're heavy into AI, it's because what you have to offer doesn't look as good in real life. Right. And so we say, okay, listen, I'm going to doctor this up, and I'm going to use it in the marketing side of it. And I'm going to get these consumers to book my property. And then they show up and they're like, man, I was taken, right? This is a scam. I mean, this doesn't even look like the right property. Airbnb, Vrbo, do you know how hard it is to have an AI scraper figure out what photos are AI generated? Not that hard, right? Yeah. So they're going to get really, really good at scraping those photos and saying, one, your best case scenario is they take it down. They say, hey, listen, Josh, you can't do that, right? That's your best case scenario because it was a problem. They had a problem with it. What happens when they start suppressing your exposure and they start shadow banning your listing, and the algorithm starts to read those AI photos and those AI generated photos, and they start to say, oh man, Josh, you're putting these AI photos in there. We're going to leave your listing up, and to you it looks normal, but you're on the last page. You're not getting shown to the consumer, and we're not showing you to our consumer. We have the right to shadow ban you because we'll decide what we're going to show and what we're not going to show, right? And so that's a really scary proposition. And so a lot of people who have leaned into this, you might have spent $2 or $3 grand on your AI photo shoot still, and it could be massively hurting you in the very near future. Now, go ahead.
I mean, you can see like the risk is, we're in this space a good bit, and we've had, even my own, we're outside of STRs as well, right? So my bigger brand, we work with cruise lines, we work with, hotel brands, and I'll go ahead and tell you, these $1 billion brands, guess what they don't do for their commercials and their shoots? They don't do AI, right? And because they know it doesn't sell, right? And so you're a small property owner, and you're saying better than all these other main hospitality brands that exist in this space, outside of the space in general. But if you look at the TOS, and again, I'm a big nerd, man, I read the fine print, right? And like, you can't use AI or digital technology to edit flaws. This is from their own language: to edit flaws, hide damage, add amenities or attributes that are not part of the listing, or otherwise misrepresent the listing, right? Yeah. Another one from the content policy is that Airbnb's content policy explicitly includes photographic, audio, video. I'm reading this. Photographic, audio, video, or other content, including content generated or using AI. So you're not allowed to do it. You're already not allowed, right? And to your point, AI recognizes AI. You're not going to outsmart the computer with the computer. Right. Yeah. It's going to catch it. And so if you've just paid however much money, and the photographer or vendor or whoever it is, like, hey, we'll stage your property for $500 for AI, and you're getting a basic real estate photo shoot with AI staging, right? That works in the Zillow space. Right. And even the wide lenses that distort on the edges, and the oven is 3 feet long. You know what I mean? Right. And it shows you 1.5 feet, whatever that is, right? You see that in real estate. That doesn't work on Airbnb, right? And if you go pay for that, and I'm not saying today, I'm not saying tomorrow, but when it happens, those vendors are going to get a lot of calls from a lot of angry clients who are like, hey, I can't use my photos anymore. What do I do? Right. Yeah. And it's because you did the easy button, and
exactly. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. And this is where I think the bigger issue is. Let's say, the rules say we can't do it, not to do it. Let's stop doing it. Right. But let's just say, I like this and I want to do it. Like, I just had a call with one of our photographers. They go there they're doing setting scenes and doing this, and then they're AI enhancing it with some people in there, and they look really good. Like, they look like really good photos. However, I still know it's AI. Right. And so here's where I think the bigger issue is. It's the consumer. There's a trust recession. It is our job to make sure that the consumer knows that they can trust what we're selling them. When you start doctoring it up with AI, and we don't know what's real and we don't know what's fake, and we start to recognize, hey, listen, you think I'm going to trust you more because you're doctoring something up with AI, or do you think I'm going to trust you less? You just mentioned it. The consumer spoke loud and clear on a lot of the AI Super Bowl ads. all of your major brands. Why do they spend the money that they do hiring actors and actresses and models to make sure that these, when they want all that done, they spend a lot of money to get it done correctly without AI. AI could do all that stuff, but they know consumers are going to very much question it. And the minute you start to put that question mark in their mind, all of a sudden they're moving on, and they're moving on to somebody else's property. So you just killed yourself, because you might have some really cool photos and they're awesome, right? I've seen some awesome AI photos. I'm not saying they're not good. I'm saying they're not going to work, right? And so I think you have to be very, very intentional about these photo shoots. People always ask me on these lifestyle photo shoots and why I'm so critical of them and so picky. I mean, Josh, you know how critical I am.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I look at photo shoots from professionals like in the space, and I pick them apart, because what the number one thing that I say is it doesn't look natural. It doesn't look like the best photographers. They're setting the scenes, but it also looks exactly like what I'm going to walk into. There's not overly filtered. The exposure is perfect how my eye would see it, not how, some AI would filter it out. I want to see it and portrayed exactly as what I'm walking into. And those are the best photo shoots. And so those of you listening to this, I know that we're kind of hanging on this topic, but I think this is going to become a hot topic for a lot of people. And I think you're going to find that certain people have paid for some of this AI photography, and it's in their listings. And we need to really be thinking about maybe removing it from our listings, and or doing a whole different photo shoot if there's too much of it, right? And because it was the easy button, just like you said, the easy button is not going to produce. You're going to get a very quick result from the easy button with something like this. You might trick one or two consumers into this is the right property. The minute you start getting those bad reviews, and or even if your property, they walked into it and it was really good, what happens to the other consumers that know it's AI? I showed my wife and kids some of these pictures, and I said, man, what do you think about these photos? They're awesome. Like, look at how we made this property look. Instantly, they all said, oh, that's just too AI. It looks too AI. They're like cool photos, but like they knew it was AI, which everybody does. That's the thing. You got to realize consumers are going to start to recognize this, and instantly they don't trust it. And
and they don't like it. I mean, and you know what I mean? They don't want to have it. If you're a host and you went through this, or even if you had a photographer that over edited your photos, if you get one person asking you, is this AI? Right?
Yeah.
10 more are thinking it, and maybe 1,000 more are thinking it, right? And you need to go ahead and step back and say, hey, am I shooting myself in the foot here? Because, you know what I mean? It's to your point, you may get a quick return. You may, this is a really cool photo and it duped a few people. But if your response is, I duped a few people, I mean, you're already on the wrong path.
Yeah. That's a problem.
The best reviews are when the guest is like, the photos didn't do it justice. It was so much better in person. That review is a lot better than someone saying, oh, they obviously used AI, or your property doesn't face west. Thanks for the sunset view over that hot tub that I'll never see. Right.
Yeah. The property was awesome, but that sunset view you saw is that's looking east. So I'm not sure where that sunset came from. The earth must have spun on its axle that day.
And there's a fine line, right? I'll give you an example. We had a Vodyssey member. We did their property. They had a lot of power lines. They were near a transformer, right? Yeah. And my photographer, he's like, should I edit these out? I was like, no. I was like, it's one thing to clear up some wires here and there, but I was like, but if you're someone who's worried about that transformer being right there, right? And it was just the way all the properties in the neighborhood were like that. It was just there in the photos. I'm like, if we remove that, it's not like the consumer got there and, oh, they must have just installed this transformer and power system, just a couple of days ago. They didn't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's been there since day one, and that's sloppy. I mean, that's just careless. And you need to be realistic with what we're selling. And if you're saying, "Oh, this is going to hurt my rankings if I don't hide that," I mean, you probably should assess that before you bought the property, or be aware of, hey, I can't use that. Like, that's what the guest is going to see. That's what they're going to experience. You know what I mean? And we need to be truthful, and that's going to be what sets us up for the best long-term results.
Yeah, absolutely.